So I'm not a movie critic. This is not a movie review channel, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on a movie that affected me. And I can't believe I'm saying that about a Godzilla movie that dropped in 2023. Especially since after I got home from seeing this movie, I went on Twitter and saw the trailer for the new Fortnite skins had just dropped in the form of Godzilla X Kong coming out next year. So that felt a little weird, especially coming out of this movie. But it's not very often that I see a movie in theaters and I'm still thinking about it the next day, how much I loved it. So I wanted to just sit down and talk about it. And like I said, I'm not a critic, so I'm not going to talk about a lot of different aspects of this film. I'll talk about one aspect specific to this film that makes it strong, and then I'm going to talk about, well, I guess first we'll talk about a very short history of Godzilla movies and why this one stands out. So for a long time, Godzilla movies have just been schlock. And that goes for Japan as Hollywood. I mean, a lot of people are going to hear me say that, and they're going to immediately think of the Hollywood movies, which are schlock. They're just monster fighting movies. They're essentially 20-minute YouTube video Darth Vader versus Predator stretched out to 2 hours. So those movies are schlock. The original movies, not the original movie, but there's something like 15 or 20 Godzilla movies that came out of Japan. Most of those are schlock. They're fun to watch because they're funny, but they're not high art. They're entertainment. And that's fine. That's totally fine. Saying that, the original Godzilla movie, the place that it came out of, although the costume is, it's a little schlocky, and that's fine. It was the time. But the original message of Godzilla was compelling, because here you had a country that just had 2 nuclear bombs dropped on it, and a people who are dealing with the, no pun intended, fallout of that. The movie Godzilla comes along almost as a conduit to allow Japanese audiences a sense of closure, or a sense of national understanding of something tragic that had happened in their country. But the focus is not on Godzilla. Godzilla could be substituted with anything. It's really a problem for the characters within the movie to try and solve. And that aspect of Godzilla has sort of been lost for a long time in these kaiju monster movies. Because when you watch Godzilla today, and especially that Godzilla X Kong trailer, you're watching that trailer and the feeling that you're meant to have is you're rooting for Godzilla and Kong. I'll use another, they're dropping into Tomato Town. And that's the feeling that you're supposed to have in these movies. You're rooting for Godzilla. But that was never the point of Godzilla. Godzilla is supposed to be this horrifying monster that needs to be stopped. And in all of the schlocky Godzilla movies, up to and including the most recent ones, Godzilla is essentially the good guy. There are points in all of the recent Godzilla movies where you are rooting for Godzilla to win, with the exception of Shin Godzilla. That's a completely different thing. But Godzilla kind of went from this horrifying monster to basically a mascot that audiences are supposed to root for. And so that's the first big thing that this movie gets right. There's a point in this movie where I hate Godzilla and I want to see him destroyed. Godzilla is a threat that needs to be eliminated. And that's the first big thing that this movie adjusts from the other movies to, is that Godzilla, he's the bad guy again. And that sort of leads into what is the other really great aspect, this probably the strongest aspect of this movie, is the characters. Because the characters, the purpose of the characters in any Godzilla movie, any disaster movie, really, is we have this disaster happening and we need to come together. The characters, we need to come together to solve this problem. And what ends up happening in the previous Godzilla movies is that you don't like the characters. You don't want them to succeed, and that's why you want Godzilla to succeed. The problem has always been you either want Godzilla to succeed in whatever, or you feel bad when Godzilla dies, or a bigger monster, a bigger, badder monster comes along and Godzilla has to destroy that monster. And actually, Godzilla is a friendly monster. And that was never how it was really meant to be. That's sort of become its own genre of film. Again, which is totally fine, but I kind of prefer the idea that Godzilla is a monster that needs to be destroyed because it allows the writer or writers of the film to create likable characters that we want to see succeed, which is what this film does. Every character in this movie is strong, has a personality, has flaws that eventually get resolved in an arc. And I haven't seen that in a long time. I haven't seen good characters that go through changes who I'm on their side. I want to see succeed. Yeah, it had been a long time, I think, since I've felt something like that in a big movie. It made me want it so awesome, in fact, that it made me want to sit down and record a video about it. If you haven't seen Godzilla Minus One, go see it. It's the best Godzilla movie I've seen. It's the best movie I've seen this year, and it might be in my top list of movies now. It was almost a perfect movie as far as writing, characters, arcs, feeling. So if you haven't seen this movie, go give it a shot. And again, this is probably the only movie review that I'm going to do on here. Props to the people who made this movie. 2 thumbs up. Godzilla, good job.